Hello world. My name is Peach, and this is my show Gender Blending. It's a unique show where I will ramble on it and do other things that I do. The thing that makes it unique is that there's only one of me, and I prowl around existence, scrounging the earth for vegan junk food, and sometimes I play music, which is also represented in the background, and sometimes I'll talk without realizing that my music is playing. And the reason I'm streaming tonight, of all nights, is that I was doing some work today that I was not sure if I'd succeed at. Oh, and I normally have an overlay just so that like we can kind of see chat a little bit. I can see when there is new chat, and then I was muted that whole time. Bummer. It was kind of coherent. I hadn't said much because actually what had happened was that the overlay was not on and then too far skewed to the right, so I took care of that, and now I'm narrating it. And so now we're caught up on essentially what I was talking about. But basically, I decided I would stream tonight because I spent all day trying to figure out how a particular technology works, I guess, and among other things that I did. And I managed to get at least something working. And so this is kind of me at a plateau in my work. I took like one more like step up the mountain. That was supposed to be simulating like an ice crevasse climb. And so like I've plunged in to the next part up. And yeah, I'm just taking a break essentially from programming. And I thought that maybe I would show some of what I'm working on and kind of talk about it. Maybe. I remembered this like thing that I wrote a while ago, and I've never shared it with anyone. But there's no reason I haven't shared it with anyone. It just hasn't come up, but it's kind of biting. And I like sharing things that are really strong, and it's about being trans. And so I'm probably gonna wait until a little bit in the stream, like once I'm kind of warmed up and ready to go, I'm gonna like bust out this kind of rant a little. It won't be a rant as much as it will be just like a defense of courtesy towards trans people. And maybe if there's another trans person who is well, so the thing is that sometimes, even though like it doesn't feel like it should have to be this way, as a trans person, we have to actually just kind of assert the same level of rights as other people, and other people kind of, in my view, mistakenly assert a negative right to misgender us or like not use the proper name. And I generally don't even like give credence to it. I don't like actually like to debate people or anything, because to me there's certain things that aren't worth my time discussing in terms of like justifying it with an argument. Like I think even conversing with someone gives rise to the concept that there's any merit to their concept at all. It's like arguing about like something that you see in the sky when there's nothing in the sky. In my view, I'm talking to someone who is not making a rational claim about the world, and in general, I think that their irrationality is actually stemming from hate. And my rationality, I believe, stems from my inner peace at the situation, because I don't tend to get riled up over it. I just exert my free right as an individual to abstain in conversation with those people, because they can think of me what they will, they can call me what they will, but I'm not going to engage in a conversation with someone if they're going to disrespect me. And so I'm going to play Pathfinder, and I might talk about that a little bit, but mostly I'm just going to be chilling and playing Pathfinder. But then I'll take like a sharp right turn in the middle of the stream, and I'll start ranting about this, but I'm not even gonna make it like that long. But oh yeah, what I was saying before is that let me make sure I have YouTube chat up here too, so I'm not missing anything. The other thing is that sometimes you have to defend yourself as a trans person. And first of all, even if you are very eloquent and you are able to articulate a strong defense of yourself and justify your existence, and also if you're able to make a strong case for basic human respect, that's great. But like when you're under pressure and you're talking to someone who would infringe on your right to exist and potentially wish you harm, which I try to repeatedly like emphasize that I wish no one harm, and I try to I mean, to be fair, I do think that if your religion thinks that trans people should be stoned, then like glass houses, and like I think that equally like those people can go get stoned. I'm getting stoned. Yeah, anyways, yeah, even if you're a really eloquent person and you can come up with an articulate, concise, and pointed argument in favor of the right to respect trans people, even if you can convince people that you deserve basic rights, oftentimes because I've had a lot of arguments with people, well, not even arguments, I've had like deep conversations with people who I think were misled as to the trans experience and had never met trans people and had never interacted with us, which makes sense because we're a small part of the population. But even if you can convince people that there's nothing wrong with you and that you're sane and just another person who wants to get along with everyone and who wishes the best for everyone else, even if you can like do that, oftentimes people will come away from the situation not truly hearing me. And so I think that a lot of people have a caricature in their mind of trans people as being militant. A lot of us become militant, I do think, and I think I am even rightfully called militant in some cases. But at the same time, I feel like part of that is because even if we make our own like case for ourselves and we are successful and someone like changes their mind and sees us as the full human beings that we are, that we're often still misunderstood greatly, and often in ways that lead to disrespect in another way. And then people will still see us as rude or a lot of other things if we feel disrespected and people feel like they can't respect us, you know? If someone misgenders you or dead names you, then that trans person has no reason to talk to you anymore. And it's literally that simple, and it's terrible. And like trans people, I think, hate it too when that happens. But the fact of the matter is that nobody can talk to people. Nobody can talk to like everyone else. Even myself at this stream, I'm limited and couldn't talk to everybody in the world with my stream, even if everybody wanted to hear me. And so like you're never gonna talk to everybody. And so in addition to that, a lot of people don't want to talk to other people for other reasons, and trans people can exert that same right to not talk to anyone who disrespects them. And so there is definitely a spectrum of mistakes that can be made. I myself and many other trans people have also misgendered people or forgotten someone's name. When a trans person does that to another trans person, I can only speak for myself. It breaks my heart when I hurt someone. And if I've ever caused anyone harm with my words, then I am going to make it a great and honest attempt. And I'm not playing Pathfinder, I realize that, but I will play Pathfinder. It's just my stream, and so I'm allowed to kind of do it however I want, I think. and I'm gonna play Pathfinder soon though. And like I said, when I play Pathfinder, I'm not gonna talk about this, and I think similar to like not talking with people if they don't want to. Trans people can also not talk about the trans experience if they want at any given time. And so I'm talking about it now, but soon I'll just be playing Pathfinder, and I'm very excited to do so. And yeah, I'll talk a little bit about why I think that you can categorically defend the respect and dignity of trans people in all conversations, no matter what the context is, because it's a basic human right, and that if you're an honest and good person, that you would actually try your hardest to show us the respect that we ask. Okay, let me play Pathfinder. And I also might program a little bit. You see, not every trans person went to school for philosophy, and so a lot of these arguments actually have taken me years to even like conceive of, like logical arguments that lead from one thread to another that are just like nicely laid out and can be provided to anyone. And then like a lot of us also like wouldn't even have the time to necessarily write all that out. Sorry, I'm balancing a lot. I'm talking about like a kind of serious subject while I'm trying to do things. Okay, there's some code. That's the timer. That's Howl. And then soon it's gonna be Pathfinder. Once this opens, and I have to engage my headphones. But yeah, I figure I can later edit the video, and I bet that would be a pretty good video to have online, honestly. I think it would be fitting with my channel, and I think it would also be just a nice video to have online for any other trans people who want to hear a nice argument for our existence and rights enunciated. I've been actually like really itching to play this game since I last streamed. I'm pretty obsessed with CRPGs. I'm also obsessed with getting the right levels because in the sense of like the volume, because sometimes I have the game sound like way too low. I think I err on the side of it being low, but I don't want to hurt anybody's ears. And I think it's like if I go to a stream and I can't even hear the streamer, then I personally wouldn't want to watch. And I'm unlistenable sometimes when like I start my stream and I'm muted, like tonight. But it ended up working out. I think it was pretty okay. I kind of talked for a long time and mean to. It's just like it's easy to talk for a long time about the trans experience. It's like the psychedelic experience, and there's actually like a lot of crossover there. And let me actually, and you can't even see my screen, which is actually a good thing in this case, so I'm gonna leave it that way for just one more second. Okay, I'm going to change over to my screen. So you couldn't see all that earlier, but that's fine. Alright, I'm gonna probably not even talk that much while I play the game. I remember that the last thing I did, and I was worried I wasn't gonna remember this, is that I did one of these 2-week quests, but I can't because I need to, I don't know, like address some concern or something within these 2 weeks. It's something like that. I forget what. That might be rough in the end. Yeah, I guess we're just gonna go do quests on the map. And I don't know what that means yet. But we're gonna find out. Yo. This is gender blending. And this is Serenata Espanola we're listening to. And my name's Paige. Hello. It's good to be here for another episode. And I might actually leave the music on, especially because this piece is so freaking good. Doesn't my room look so cozy? Well, the living room. It was not really mine either. I guess we just lived here for a minute. But I love this spot. The 2 Kleenex boxes kind of bothers me a little bit, but I'm too lazy to move it. It's kind of hard to see, but they're separating a piece of music right now that's acting as a temporary table for the secondary tissue box. See, the bottom one's like empty, but I put something in it because I'm weird, I guess. Because it was propping up my phone, and I was trying to raise my phone a little. Anyways, in this section, I'm going to be talking about the trans experience. And I'm going to be talking about this thing that I wrote. I'm going to point to it. It's right here. I wrote this thing here. It's not like a published work or anything. It's just something I wrote. And it's short. It's only like 2 pages. And it'll probably take like a couple slides of drawing. I'm just going to start. And I'm going to talk about the trans experience. And in particular, I'm going to talk about why I think that trans people deserve to have their names and pronouns respected. So, if that doesn't interest you, you can go away. And if it does interest you, then listen on while I try to lay out some points that people could potentially reiterate if they were interested in doing that. And all the music in the background is music that I play on this piano here to my left and to the screen's right. And so I'm just gonna give this a quick little test here and just see if that actually worked. It didn't. Why didn't it work? There we go. It just took a second. And so we'll kind of start at the beginning, right? And I'm gonna turn the music down a little because it is slightly distracting. Anyways, well, my name's Paige. This is gender blending, and I'm gonna start with this word considerate. Let me just write that, and I'm gonna try and write nicely here. Okay, that's a good start, I think. So I'm trying to think about this like word considerate. I would say that to be considerate is to, and I zoomed in because I need my font to be a little smaller, but that can stay big because that's what I'm writing about. This is my own definition. To take into account all the facts of a matter in deciding on. I'm gonna actually redo that G because it's just a little sloppy. Deciding on a way to act, feel, speak, etc. Okay. That's a decent starting point in my opinion. And like, if anybody wants to push back on this, just let me know. Generally speaking, I think that this should be a pretty strong argument for being kind to trans people. Okay. I'm gonna try and write small here. Because this isn't a PowerPoint, this is notes. This is different. Okay. I think that these 2 things are pretty self-evident. And one of the things that I've been thinking about lately is that like, self-evidence is a pretty strong virtue, and there are a lot of things that are self-evident, such as the truth, and probably love is self-evident, and probably kindness is self-evident, but even if it isn't self-evident, none of those things are self-evident. Still means that upon introspection and reflection and study and meditation, that we can come to truths. Anyways, so being considerate is just taking into consideration everything about something. And, well, What does it mean to take into account? Well, it just means that you have an open mind. There's something open-minded about being considerate, because it means that you take into consideration all the facts. Because sometimes you examine something at face value and it can be obviously wrong, or so obviously simple that it's not something even worth stating. However, oftentimes when obvious things are placed next to each other, it can be quite illuminating and shed light on something that is much more large and abstract. And it's funny that it might be perceived as being pedantic to explain these things. And I think part of the perception of trans people as whiners are that we try to explain these very basic things to grown-ups. And it's because so often grown-ups don't show us the same respect. And so I'm here to just try and say the plain and simple things that I think need to be said. Because it's weird how people don't say these basic things. And right now, there's not a lot of people who are speaking sense. And so these are some things that I think, maybe they're not perfect, but I think that they're a good starting point, at least, to just put out into the universe. And this is going somewhere as well. It kind of gets bigger. So as far as being considerate, that means something else. It means that's basically the thesis statement. People either think about what they're saying or they're being inconsiderate. It is true that you can think about things in a negative light, and you can ruminate on hate towards trans people or any other group or anyone forever. But I'll talk about this in more detail shortly. So that's an inferred fact that's kind of negative. Let me balance it out. Let me read another thing about considerate people. A hallmark of a considerate person. I'll redo these three. That was kind of a cutie, but a hallmark of a considerate person. Okay, so there's a trend. Being considerate is to take into account all the different facts of the matter before you actually say something or before you do something. You take into all the facts of the matter. And someone who's considerate is someone who regularly demonstrates that. To be considered a considerate person, you have to demonstrate to people that you consider things deeply and that you take critical consideration. Well, that's a little tautological. A hallmark of someone who's considerate is that they're always going to critically think about an issue and come to a balanced and generally reasonable conclusion. And in the end, a considerate person stands by what they do and say, because a considerate person would also acknowledge any shortcoming or wrongdoing they might have. If they're truly considerate, they would acknowledge it. Okay, so all that is there. Let me go ahead and let me make a new one. Well, okay, I don't know why would they. Well, there's kind of two thoughts here, and so I'm gonna kind of okay, that line is fine. So there's gonna be kind of a rough bifurcation here. I'm gonna write consideration over here. So here's me. This is input. This is an insult. This is input. And this is a perceived insult. So I'm gonna just wrap this in its own little bubble. This is input, and this is directed at me. And so here I have two options. I can forgive, or I can leave. Okay. Well, when a trans person forgives someone who disrespects them, 99% of the time that leads to getting hurt again, because they don't learn. If you leave, then okay, isn't that wild? That like, if I get insulted, that the two options that I have is that I can let go of it and I can forgive a person and then let them later on hurt my feelings again, essentially, because essentially that person's not going to learn realistically if they just truly don't care. Or if I leave, then a lot of the time I might be perceived as inconsiderate or rude, which is so crazy when obviously it's not. But like, this is like part of the dilemma that trans people are put in when people insult them. And so here's the thing, is that like, the trans person is considerate. This is me considering it. This is all me considering it. So I'm being considerate. This is me being considerate. I'm considering the situation. And then this right here, this is where, but it's not, right? And so, someone else misgenders a person, trans person. I am hurt. I'm hurt by what you're saying. Someone else. I don't give a fuck, or I don't care. Trans person. This is that same person again. Well, sure. I know that this isn't the most readable thing. These are just my thoughts written down, that's all. When people say they're like appealing to a vernacular that they're like comfortable with, maybe you do. I'm not saying you don't, but those are pretty distasteful things, wouldn't you say? I think most people would agree that those are distasteful, generally. I have probably two more of these. I don't know whether that's a lot or not. Seems like a lot to me. If I ask someone, there's not much of an answer to that, because it's just self-evident. Similarly, this is gender blending, by the way. My name is Paige. This is my show where I kind of just talk about the trans experience, and in this case I talk about people being inconsiderate to trans people. So what this all boils down to, this is basically the conclusion. I guess this was the last page. I'm getting kind of tired, so it might be best to end it. Conclusion. The conclusion, I mean, I think that's pretty concrete as a whole. Everything that I wrote, I think that these 3 pages actually do kind of cut to the chase, truthfully. It's a lot of text on 3 pages, but like I said, it's more my notes than it is actually it's more my notes than it is actually like a PowerPoint slide. It's not meant to be like quick glance. It's supposed to be considered. This is all about being considerate, see? Oh shit. I'll just run through this again really fast. Is that to be considerate, I'm gonna actually make a new layer. Considerate. That's basically the word of the day here. To take into account all of the facts of the matter in deciding on how to act, feel, speak, etc. A considerate person is someone who regularly demonstrates consideration in their thoughts, words, and actions. A hallmark of a considerate person. Let me actually underscore the whole thing. Considerate person is that they consider what they say, do, feel. And so I specifically harp on consideration, considering, because one thing that bigots always say, and people who hate trans people and people who don't want to actually like support us, is that it's so hard to respect our pronouns and our names of all things. And it's like, well, that's being inconsiderate. If it's too hard for you, you're being inconsiderate because you're not thinking about what you're saying before you say it. Be a fucking grown-up. Take a second to think about what you're saying. Like, I thought about all this before I said it. That's why it's rational and rationally comprehensible, and one thought flows from another, and why it's interwoven, and why this is interesting, and why people would listen to me, and why no one would listen to an actual bigot except for other bigots, right? And so, that's why I'm harping on consideration, is because if you consider this, then you either will come to the conclusion that it is possible for you to take a second before you speak and not misgender and not dead name trans people. And if you're gonna actively do it, then you are just admitting that you're being transphobic. And if you're being transphobic, then, as my second slide says here, no one's obligated to be considerate. I'm not gonna underline that. And no one's considerate of everything all the time. Nobody's considerate all the time. Why wouldn't you strive to be considerate all the time, though? If a trans person feels disrespected, why would they consider that conversation? This is just like on consideration, right? When I consider, this is really where consideration should be. That's the important thing. Trans people can consider the situation all day long, but they can't actually change the situation. The only change that a trans person can actually exert on the situation is to leave. Because they can either forgive the person and then likely be misgendered or dead named again, or they can just leave. And I'm counting things like guy and man and these things. If you say those things to a transgender woman, then you're misgendering them. I understand that for some people, they consider those things gender neutral, but part of this is that trans women are saying what makes them comfortable. And if someone tells you that something's uncomfortable, don't say that it's too hard for you to cater to their comfort, because that's inconsiderate. And maybe you're being inconsiderate, but then again, it's just a circle. It just goes back to the fact, well, then they have no obligation to you. They do not have any obligation to actually spend time with you, right? I don't want to spend time with people who disregard my feelings. They have no obligation. So why would I talk to them? Why would I talk to them? These aren't important, really. Trans people are being considerate. That's like the main branch here. Most of us know that it can be hard for friends and family to be considerate, especially in the beginning of our transition. But it's a spectrum, and the trans person's the one who gets to decide what they're actually comfortable with. And if they're not comfortable, then they're gonna leave. That's the way of the world. If you don't want to be alone in the world and you don't want to be a shitty human being, then be friends with trans people and just respect their pronouns and their name. It's that simple. These people have no right to disrespect trans people and no right to expect that trans people will consider speaking with them. So, the conclusion. This is the conclusion, and then I'm gonna circle it, but nicely. Conclusion. Misgendering and dead name is inconsiderate. And to expect trans forgiveness is further inconsiderate. And trans people have no obligation to forgive anyone that disrespects them. And that's basically the long and short of it. Those are the 3 slides that I would suggest cover fairly coherently why trans people should not sit idly by and accept being dead named or misgendered in any given situation. And I wrote this all in consideration of someone who I was forced to live in close quarters with, who repeatedly misgendered me and showed no remorse or any like intention to change that, and still expected me to forgive them for that, still expected me to just like, oh, okay, whatever, it's fine. Why would I for 1 second spend a moment of my time with someone who doesn't bring joy into my life if I don't have to, right? Like, I'm not like someone who's very privileged. I have not had like a lot of opportunity. Everybody who watches this show knows that I've been homeless throughout my life. I worked very hard to go to school and fulfilled an entire military enlistment for a country that would no longer even let me serve in the military, even if I did want to, which I don't. I've worked very hard in my life, and I don't ask a lot for respect. This person, fully grown adult man, would not show me the respect of just gendering me correctly and using the right name. And so in this particular situation, you know, the thing I say about the privilege is that like it's not like I have the opportunity to move anywhere I want, right? Like, it's not like I'm rich and like flaunting my ability to, because I think this person also disliked me because I think they perceive me as affluent as well, because I like try to present myself well, and I guess I fucking enunciate my words, not like a fucking well, anyways, and I fucking can play music beautifully. And this person was an actual just piece of shit, essentially. And I have no obligation to be like kind or to mince my words towards them or towards anyone who would disrespect me. I'm not gonna spend 2 seconds on it. And it's the same thing about like entering debate or having conversation about these things. Having conversation with someone who hates you is pointless. Anyone who's gonna argue against trans rights in any capacity needs to understand that a lot of the reason why trans people wouldn't want to talk about it is because even engaging in a conversation about these things makes it seem like there's a conversation that's warranted, but it's just pure hate. If someone told you that their stance was that you shouldn't exist, then that's not a conversation that should happen. It's not worth your time. You probably can't convince someone like that to change their mind, and that stance is not compatible with you living, right? And so someone directly contends with a trans person's right to exist and flourish in their own being. They don't deserve a second of that trans person's time. The trans person doesn't have to educate them. The trans person does not have to forgive or look past it, and they can. Maybe that trans person is particularly forgiving, but I'll tell you what, is that as I've gotten older, I've become less forgiving, most likely, as I've gotten the ability to separate myself from people, because that was really the big thing. When you're young, you can't even separate yourself, but as you get older, and I think old people on their deathbed do feel fucking lonely when they realize that they fucking isolated themselves from everyone, like Mitch fucking McConnell, who will hopefully burn in hell forever. Like, if there is a hell, Mitch McConnell should go there, as should every other conservative, obviously. Like, they should go to hell, like, if there is one. I don't think that there is a hell. Unfortunately, I think we go to heaven, and I'm not even satisfied with that. I'm not happy about the fact that I think I'll go to heaven with all of these shitty people, but I do think that we'll be there. And I think that my door will be open to every shitty person so that they can apologize to me when they realize that I'm so correct and they're so wrong. And they're gonna see all of my faults, and they'll realize they have to get past it because I'm in heaven with them too. And so that's how heaven works. If they have a problem with heaven, then they can take it up with God. But I'm not the one who decided how the rules work. I exist, and I'm not going to stop existing unless people kill me. If they kill me, I'm martyred. And if they don't kill me, then I'm just going to keep standing up for my own rights and the rights of other transgender people. And so this has been my segment on transgender rights And why I tend to not even discuss it a lot of the time is that even discussing it makes it seem like it should be an issue that's platformed. But in reality, the entire conversation is disgusting. And it all detracts from the fact that we should be talking about billionaire oligarchies and climate change, which is primarily the thing. Also, wars across the world, like in Ukraine, which is obviously wrong. And obviously, Putin is one of the evil people, along with many other just conservative leaders. And pretty much any religious zealot is also evil, essentially. All of those people could go to hell, but like I said, I don't think hell actually exists. So I think we'll probably go to heaven. They'll probably hear me play piano, and that'll upset me that I have to even like do that. But it's open access for everybody, basically, in my opinion. And I'll give this talk more times too in heaven, probably. I know I'm weird. I'm a trans person who like is kind of atheistic in a certain way, but I'm also really religious in a certain way. It's really complicated because like I don't know how to deal with it either. I don't understand the universe. Could be a void. It could be nothing. But I'm still here, and so I'm gonna keep talking to fill that time, and I'm gonna get to Pathfinder. This has been the trans segment. I think it went pretty well. I think I said everything I wanted to, connected the dots, and I think this will make a good YouTube video as well. I'm gonna probably try and put this up. And so let me share I hope that if there's trans people watching, that maybe it helped to enunciate some arguments. And if there's someone else here who isn't trans, but who wants to stand up for us, maybe you heard a good argument or two. Okay, I'm gonna put myself on BRB and I'll be back to play more Pathfinder for the rest of the night soon. Bye!